open so I could put the fence on it. I love how giant Ducky just is. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the loin stream. It is time that we start Crabman's book. I hope that you are ready. I also hope that this is working. Have you guys seen? Do you want to see? Tatum, come here. I'm testing. There it is. Okay. I noticed. So what I was saying is it attaches to his harness. And then it goes to his little cuffies on his back legs, and it's like a little bungee cord for his back legs. So technically it's a resistance band. So when he picks up his legs, it helps keep him from sliding out from underneath them by having the tension of that resistance. And then also it works his muscles to help build them up a little more again. He is barking at a ball right now, as you do. He had green beans. Earlier. He gets so excited for his vegetables. Okay. Enough of that. Oh, Ducky's up here. Mwah! Mwah! Okay, now it's time. Oh, I forgot. We should probably have our story thing open for eventually. We don't need it right now. This is a short book. I anticipate it being 2, maybe 3 weeks long. Because it's only 125 pages on Kindle. Anyway, also welcome to Spoopy and Ducky and Grumble! Because apparently you were muted. Not muted. Like, the cord gets bumped and then it just stops working is what happens here. So, that is what happened. I also own this book and have yet to read it. Well, now we're here together. Anyway, part 1, crashing in. A beam of light pierced through the curtains and poked Damien in the face. Never a sound sleeper, this was just enough to knock him out of his dreams. What the? Damien grunted as he tried to block the blinding beams with his hand and worm his way out of bed. He thought he closed the curtains last night, for it was the night of a full moon. Because of his half-lichen heritage, full moons would just stress him out and cause him a great deal of anxiety. After recalling everything from last night, he was more certain that he went to bed much earlier than usual and double-checked his curtains were shut properly. After years of practice, he stopped wolfing out on nights like these, yet he still could not shake off the distressing effects of the moon. From the tingling, burning sensation on his hand, he could tell that it was almost noon, which meant that he had slept for around 15 or 16 hours. Thanks to the full moon, his body was still sore, and he could barely muster up the energy to crawl out of bed. So do you think a half lichen only half wolfs out, or Like, how does this work? Being shone upon directly by sunlight was quite a nuisance as well, due to the other half of his heritage, one of vampires. He had no idea how his parents met, nor did he have any idea on the circumstances that led to his birth. He was left on the doorstep of a church nearby, where he was thus adopted by an old priest running it. It was a matter of luck that the old timid priest had certain knowledge about the underworld and was willing to raise him without making his lineage a bigger or more complicated deal than it had to be. Maybe out of the same spirit, Damien decided to call himself a lime, a clumsy wordplay of sorts. His stomach growled and his head hurt and his ears rang. It was time to grab something to eat after that long slumber. He had to be in his best state soon, for he still needed to make his shift at the local dive bar tonight. As usual, there were a few messages from his coworkers and his manager showing on his phone. Another busboy asked him to cover his shift. The barista said she forgot her special wristband and asked if he had seen it. His manager told him to come in earlier today because the other busboy had to leave town because his aunt got sick for the 6th time this month. Are we believing that this aunt is sick? One could argue the mixed son of two Night Stalker races should be doing something with more grandeur than just a busboy and a part-time janitor. But so far, intrigue and excitement in life had eluded him. After a while, he just stopped trying. At least in this job, he could score free drinks and snacks after each shift, even before he could legally consume alcohol, and that was enough. He once tried searching for his kin, but to no avail. It was as if the Night Stalker races all vanished in one night without leaving much of a trace. His journals, sketches of magical arrays, notes, and even grimoires left to him by his parents were scattered on the ground, and he almost tripped on them twice while he was getting dressed. This mess was his own doing, from when he made yet another research attempt of his lineage more than a week ago. It took more than 20 minutes before he was ready to leave early for lunch, and then his shift. He checked his pockets before closing the doors. He did not have his keys with him. Where could they? Damien scratched his head with a heavy frown after looking under his bed and all over his table. His stomach growled once again, and the soreness of his muscles seemed to have grown a little more. The ringing sound in his ears grew louder as well, which was a bit out of the ordinary. Even with many nights of full moons before, the ringing was almost the lighter of the symptoms normally subsided after the short while and a good nap. An intuitive warning against changing in danger, so said his notes in the grimoire, yet it had been quite some time since he encountered any real danger. Just when he was checking the space under his bookshelf, a distant and faint voice of a young woman caught his attention, and with an absurdly fast speed it closed on his position. The girl was grunting, cursing, and yelling out words that he could not make out, as if she was fighting or struggling. Fuck you! Fuck off! Those were the first audible words. Before Damien could find where the voice came from, his window went off its frames in a loud bang. Broken glass shards exploded in all directions. The thick sunlight blocking curtains were thrown into the air and flopped onto the ground. Boom! A human figure with a full head of burning red hair and a full-body black combat suit covered with gashes, tears, and bloodstains fell into Damien's bed. The metal frames and springs creaked, whined, and bent from the impact. The filling of the mattress burst out from the sides of his puffy fireworks. What came with the red-headed figure were two foul and unsightly creatures. They took the rough shape of large dogs, but each had 6 legs with long bony claws, exposed tendons, and ribs. Damien caught a look at the face of one of these creatures, if one could even call it a face. What it has was a structure made of moving pieces of rock, debris, and wood and long, winding worms with shiny, spiked, curved fangs, held together by thick, slow-moving black goo. The same kind of goo was dripping all over his bed and his floor from the wounds of these creatures' bodies. Ah, fuck you! The red head figure roared in the same voice Damien had heard earlier as she kicked one of the creatures between its middle legs, sending it through the air and into the wall. At the same time, the other creature took the opportunity and lunged at her, sinking its fangs into her right forearm. Before the creature could cause the girl any more harm, Damien already had his right hand on the back of its neck and his left hand on its bony, slimy, and goo-covered lower back. His fingernails sprouted out and pierced through the pale gray, rubbery skin of uneven thickness. Where's your ball? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Whoosh. With his fingers locked in the creature's spine. Sit. Sit. Hey, hey. Hey, this is a non-compete contract. You can't bark over me. Sit. It didn't work. Sounds like your mom's coworker's always ill. Ill. With the fingers locked on the creature's spine socket, Tatum, the creature struggled, but was not able to move an inch. He did not know why he did it, as he had never did anything like this before. Yet it was as if something deep within him whispered to him and moved his body without his conscious mind. Instinct, maybe. Longing for a non-boring life, perhaps. Pungent black goo and a dark green slime splashed all over his mattress as Damien pulled the creature's body in two directions. It was the first time he exerted his full force in a violent manner on anything for a while. The creature was torn apart in but an instant with a splash. Structures of rock, wooden debris, and worms crumbled. The girl cursed once again, and with a swift swing of her curved dagger, the upper half of the creature was removed from her right arm, leaving only some severed fang on her sleeve. Damien's eyes met with the girl's. She had these deep, bright green eyes, which, though seemingly very uncommon, paired quite well with her flame-like hair. The dirt and blood on her face did not hide her fair skin, or the freckles and the few locks of hair sticking to her face made his heartbeat speed up. Damien muttered, "Are you okay?" Before he could finish, the other creature lunged from the corner of the room right at him. The two worms crawled out of its face, with worms crawling out of its face, shot at Damien like chained and toothy harpoons. Sharp fangs from the worms pinched his chest. His left shuddered, and his right forearm penetrated its skin and muscle. The next moment, numbness began spreading from the wound on the rest to the rest of his body. Do you think those worms have they're like the prongs of a taser? You got this dog with worms that just jump out of it and then once it that's what I'm imagining. Bang, bang, bang. The girl pulled out a handgun and opened fire on the creature. Her bullets tore open 3 giant holes in its body. These were definitely not ordinary bullets, as golden flames surged from the wounds and engulfed the creature from inside in almost the blink of an eye. If Damien did not shove the creature away, he would have been scorched by the flame as well. Are you okay?" Damien tried to ask once again, but his words started slurring and his muscles became uncontrollably relaxed and paralyzed. The red-haired girl shot up and caught him just in time before he would bang his head on the corner of a desk. "Damn it." The girl laid Damien down and checked his pulse by his neck. "Gosh, why is your body temperature so low?" "What? What happened?" Damien's eyesight was getting blurry and shaky. His mind grew cloudy, and he found himself needing to push harder in order to breathe. "Their toxins become nastier with low blood temperature." The girl shook her head and pulled out a piece of folded yellow paper. "Here, I'll put this in your mouth. It'll be very hot, but bear with me, got it? Don't spit." If it was not weird enough, after putting the piece of paper into Damien's mouth, the girl cut her middle finger, chanted some kind of spell, and then dripped a drop of blood on the paper. A moment passed, and Damien watched, his slight panic, smoke coming out of his mouth. At the same time, an intense heat exploded from inside of his body. The smoke back flowed into his lungs. His tongue was burning like it was being roasted on a campfire. He tried to cry for help, but his mouth and tongue were both numb and powerless. For some reason, he felt no urge to cough or vomit, even when the smoke was filling him up. Hang on, just for a few minutes. The girl took out another piece of folded yellow paper, lit it up with a lighter, and threw it into the air. An arch made an almost pure golden energy appeared in thin air, behind which was the vision of a strange place. Smell of grass and wildflowers and the faint chirping of birds came from the arch. With everything before him, suspicion all arose in Damien's mind. Was he dreaming? Was he still asleep and needed to wake up? It was just making me think of something, and I don't remember what I was going to say. I wanted to finish that thought. It had to do with her throwing the piece of paper into the air. I just don't remember what it was. Dang. Standing on the other side of the arch, or portal to be precise, was a simple wooden shack located in a strange mountainous area. In front of the shack gathered a tall hulk of humanoid creatures whose body was made of soft, slowly flowing and reflective silver metals. A middle-aged man with a full head of shiny black hair in a suit of simple gray shangshin, and an old man sitting beside a small campfire. Faint smells of ashes, dirt, blood, and rot in the air tingled Damien's nose. The ground was stained and sprinkled with burned spots. A big battle must have just happened. Pebbles on uneven ground poked his legs and back. Uncomfortable as it was, at least they were warm. Even though the pieces of folded paper in his mouth seemed to have stalled the effect. Oh, that's what it was. I was like, vegetarian. She's making him a vegetarian with the blood blunts. Even though the piece of folded paper in his mouth seemed to have stalled the effects of the toxins, his consciousness was still slipping away, a dark, cold sleepiness creeping in, chilling his extremities limb by limb, finger by finger, and toe by toe. "Where's Candlekin?" the red-headed girl yelled. "Where is he? We need help." Damien could not help but pass out once again in the girl's arms. The last words he heard were from an impatient, slightly hoarse male voice. "Who the heck is this? Why is he—" When he came to, he found himself able to feel his entire body once again. Additionally, the soreness from the night of the full moon was almost completely gone. Beside him sat a giant, sweaty and chubby man with a small straight braid sticking upwards toward the sky like a candlestick. This must be Candlekin, the one whom the red-haired girl had called out for help. Damien looked around. He was lying on a simple bed of hay. The thick layer of hay was evenly put on a thin, long silver metal board. Around him, scattered across different distances, were broken mountains, burnt hills, and desertified plains. His eyes were dry. His ears itched. The smell of charred earth, burning vegetation, and scorched rock filled his nostrils. He squeezed quite a few times before he could finally adapt to it. "You're finally awake now, you little chump," Candlekin spoke with a familiar hoarse and throaty voice as he approached. "Now, get up. I don't have any more energy to waste on you." "Candlekin, he saved my life." Just this moment, the girl came to Damien's defense. "Be kind to him, will you?" "And I saved his. I guess the favor belongs to me now." Candlekin waddled away. "Boulder, where's my soup?" "We'll be ready soon." Boulder, the giant humanoid creature whose body was made of liquid metal, answered with a soft, gentle, almost childlike voice. "How is he? Is he okay? He must be, right? With your healing powers?" "Don't mind him." The fair, freckled, smiling face of the girl came before Damien. A few locks of bright, flaming hair drifted with the cool breeze. "How are you feeling?" "Okay, I guess." Damien turned his head and stretched his arms to get the feeling of his muscle. "Where am I?" What is this place? And who are you? Who are you? Who are they? My name's Roberta Jones. I'll introduce everybody later. Where'd your ball? Where'd you go? I don't see it. Covered in hair. There it is. The girl sit, sit, sit. No, sit. Look, I appreciate you feel so good. Oh, careful. Oop. The girl extended her arms and helped Damien stand to his feet. And well, I actually don't know your name of the name of this place, but we're sure that not where you were. This is our world, not yours, I guess. Okay, how did I get here? Damien scratched his head and looked around again. Now he was finally sure the crude wooden tent, the forest that was almost entirely burnt down, and the crushed and broken mountains he saw before were not from his hallucinations. My portal. Roberta tilted her head at the middle-aged man in a gray Changshan who was now meditating near the campfire, or rather, Master Longma's portal. Master Longma's a cultivator. He gave me a few talismans that could teleport me away when I was in danger, but I got interrupted during the fight and ended up in your world. Lucky for me, I mean us, the one I needed to come back still worked. Okay, okay. Damien rubbed his temples, taking a few breaths as he worked through the new information. Being a Lyme, he thought that he could be more ready to accept things like this. Alas, he still needed more time. He had no idea what a cultivator was. Maybe something wizard-like? Maybe this sharp-looking middle-aged man was a practitioner of some kind of magic. You've already met Candlekin, our grumpy healer. The big guy over there cooking soup is Boulder. Don't let his tough exterior scare you. He is a big softy inside. Roberta pointed to the giant made of silver liquid metal and that had a smiley pancake-like face. He's our defense specialist and tool maker, and that gentle old man over there is Luo. He's traveling with us. Where are you traveling to? Damien looked up at the sky. The sun was about to set completely, but it still looked much bigger and brighter than it did at home. The sky appeared to be painted with a shade of indigo, and the crescent moon was just starting to come into the sky, was much bigger than the one at home as well. It was only now did it fully dawn on him that he was already quite far from home. His question was asked in a casual tone and voice, yet it attracted the attention of Master Longma, Candlecun, and Luo, the old man. Let's eat first. Roberta dodged Damien's inquiring look and dragged him to the campfire. It seemed Boulder could cook more than soup. He also prepared barbecued fish and legs from an unknown animal. Everyone gathered around the campfire one by one. Luo, the old man, was the second to last to sit down, as he appeared to be visually impaired and needed help from Roberta to find the right spot. Master Longma, the middle-aged man in the gray Changshan, was sitting by a metal rack over the fire, turning the rack with his right index finger. There was quite a distance between his finger and the metal handle. It seemed from whatever this cultivator was, telekinesis was among his skill sets. The master smiled at Damien when he came closer. How are you feeling, young vampire? A chill ran down Damien's spine, and he stammered, What? How do you know? When you're out, Master Longma examined your body to help clear out the toxins. Roberta shook her head. But you're not a full vampire, are you? Otherwise the sunlight would have hurt you really bad. Master Longma stared at Damien calmly with a smile, yet his looks were sharp as a sword. What else are you? Lichen, fey, shapeshifter, lobsterkin? Master, is that really necessary? Roberta frowned as she helped Boulder slice up the meat from one of the barbecued animal's legs and fill the metal bowls with it. It will be if he's to travel with us, Master Longmaw shrugged. Wait, what? Travel with you? Damien almost dropped the bowl handed to him. I don't think I've agreed to such a deal. I just wanna go home? Luo asked with a gentle smile. Young one, I can relate. Master, can you share your knowledge and guide him? Yes, elder. Master Longmaw nodded. You see, little half-vampire, the talisman that I made for little Roberta that allowed her to come back was made of precious materials and strong incantations. It used as its anchor, so when she used it, it was able to find us wherever she was. But for you to go home, since we practically have no anchor, we'll need even more, much rarer metals, and possibly only under very select circumstances. Even given these, you'll need to train to be able to use the right tools and survive the teleportation. Okay, but where am I exactly? And where are you going? Damien sighed after a pause. And and I know some blood magic. I don't. The name of the land is Obscuria. Candle-kun snickered, droplets of sweat bouncing off his chin and shoulder. I take it it's somewhere that you've never heard of before? I can't I can't say that I have. Damien looked at Roberta, then Luo. Can anyone explain to me, where am I? Are we exactly? And where are we going? How can I get back? So you know, I don't have to trouble you. I'm afraid that ship's sailed, boy. Candle-kun put some rocks and dirt in his soup before chugging it down without even noticing the drips on his chest and belly. You're stuck with us for now. Or should I say, we're stuck with you. After saying this, he picked up another piece of rock from the ground and threw it in his mouth. Like I said, you need special training to be able to travel safely, and there won't be anyone to train you but us. More specifically, me. Master Longmaw jammed his fingers into the ground and then pulled out a stick made of stones and handed it to Damien. Here, try to break this. Let's see how much training you'll need. Damien put the bowl on the ground before him and picked up the stick. After getting a feel for the weight and center of gravity, he got started. The stick was made of nothing but stone, held together by some kind of incantation or magic. It was not too thick, roughly held together by some kind of it was not too thick, roughly the same girth as a bench press bar. Damien could easily wrap his fingers around it and get a firm grip. Yet, even with his full strength pumping it into his arms, the stick only bent slightly. Come on, don't hold back, Roberta smiled. You can do it, you can do it! Boulder raised his two pillar-like arms and cheered with his childlike voice. Damien growled. His dark, spiky hairs started growing from his back and his arms. His face started turning long and dark, and his frame grew bigger. Traces of red energy emitted between his fingers, and the middle part of his stone stick glowed in red. At the same time, the red runes and symbols flashed through the entire stick. Blood magic, huh? Master Longmaw looked at Roberta, then Candle-kun. Interesting, but way, way too crude. Damien roared, and the stick only bent slightly more than before, showing no signs of breaking at all. Droplets of sweat formed on his forehead, his cheeks, and his back. His arms began shaking. The glow at the center of the stone stick flickered like a single light bulb connected to an unstable power source. The stone heated up and burned his palms. It seemed the more he tried, the stick itself became hotter. That's okay for now. Don't overexert yourself, Master Longmaw cautioned. No, I can still... Damien could not even get the full sentence out. His shoulders and arms shook even harder, and the red light at the center of the stick grew dimmer with each flash. The burning got worse, and it seemed to even have seeped through his skin, his muscles, and into his bones. He did not know how it was possible, nor did he have the time or energy to care at that moment. Damien, stop! Roberta raised her voice. You're gonna hurt yourself. Master Longmaw snapped his fingers. An invisible, soft, but powerful force threw Damien into the air and ripped the stone stick away from his grasp. When Damien fell onto the ground, the non-human features he just displayed disappeared, leaving only tiny holes and tears in his shirt and pants to prove that they had once occurred. "What were you thinking?" Roberta rushed to his side to help him get up, but he did not take her hand and just struggled to pull his body straight by himself. "What are you trying to prove here?" Master Longmaw stared down at Damien, his gaze piercing through the body and mind like spears. "You won't be of any use to anyone if you keep injuring yourself like that." I Damien was at a loss for words, as the master saw right through him and showed no mercy in pointing it out. Maybe he was trying to prove himself, not just to himself, but to the red-headed girl who stood beside him. The thought made him lower his eyes and take a deep breath in an attempt to soothe the burning sensation in his arms. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have." "No need to apologize," Master Longmaw sighed as he glanced through Damien and Roberta's faces. "We'll begin training tomorrow. Eat and rest today. Roberta will fill you in on the details." Damien looked at his palm. The stone stick left strips of burning marks on his palms and fingers, with arcane words embedded in his skin. Upon closer inspection, they appeared to be glowing and shimmering like they were when he was trying to bend the stick. What? What is this?" Damien looked up at Roberta. "Just eat first." Roberta shook her head and handed Damien his bowl. The first meal Damien had in this world was mostly silent. Master Longmaw sat on top of a tall rock to keep an eye out for the surroundings while they ate. Boulder and Candlecoon both sat on the old man Lau's sides, eating the soup while shoving dirt and rocks from the ground into their mouths. Roberta sat on top of another rock close to Damien, also keeping an eye out on the surroundings. For a moment, Damien was not sure if it was because he was here or if it was always like this for them. After the meal, everyone but Roberta and Damien gathered around the campfire and rested where they sat. Roberta volunteered to take the first shift to keep watch, and without much thought, Damien decided to tag along and sat beside her on top of the rock. "So, do you guys always eat like this, in complete silence?" Damien asked Roberta as he looked at the sky, pretending to count the stars. "Not really. We usually talk about our journey and what we would do, where we would be when we complete our mission." Roberta chuckled and shook her head. "It's just, we fought a bunch of creatures and just shook them off of our tail. Everyone's exhausted, and we've got to be extra careful." "And you can tell me about your journey and your mission now?" Damien raised his palms to show Roberta the burn marks. Thanks to the half lichen, half vampire blood in his veins, the wounds had already healed completely. Yet the arcane words remained branded on him. It was an unknown kind of magic, one that placed certain restrictions on him. "Yeah, sorry about that," Roberta sighed. "I didn't know Master Longmaw's gonna trick you like this. I would have asked him to go about it easier, but you have to understand, you're the first outsider to join us." "What is this, anyway?" "A tracking and protection seal. With this, we will be able to find you if you're ever to get lost." Roberta showed Damien her right wrist, where a strip of similar text was branded on her porcelain skin. "It also provides a certain level of protection against certain entities that could possess your mind." "Okay." Damien was stunned for a brief moment, then shook his head, chuckling with wry frustration. Can't say I know anything like that. And an honest answer to your question." Roberta sat straight on the rock, looking into Damien's eyes. "We're on our way to slay a foul entity, a dragon. One that's committed countless atrocities, and one that's sown destruction throughout the world." Damien fell silent for another short moment, and then he shrugged and scoffed. "Oh, well, of course. Welcome back, Bobby." The meditation method taught by Master Longmaw did not make much sense, yet somehow worked for Damien. 2 days ago, before he started his training, he was never able to fully grasp blood magic, the kind of magic said to be wielded by vampires in this world. He had never seen much of it actually in actual action. Absolute majority of it, of what he knew, what it could do in theory, was from the books and notes left to him. But with just half a day's practice, he was already able to conjure a small blade made with blood. He was also had some small but still noticeable improvements on his control of his wolf form, that he could morph closer to a full shape of a wolf instead of simply a human with longer limbs, sharper teeth, and spiky hair. Your magic seems to drain the caster more than any other kind. Roberta's eyes followed the dancing crystallized blades made of blood in Damien's fingers. And not just the fact that it's made of blood. I mean, it also appears to be more energy consuming. Oh, you can tell? Damien asked at Roberta. The main reason for his lack of familiarity with the practice of blood magic was because it was exhausting of its exhausting nature. He could not quite put his finger on why, nor did he have any reference on what normal magic was like. Yes, there was a special glimmer in Roberta's eyes. It aroused in Damien a strange sense of being observed and surveilled, but not dissimilar to when he was being examined by Master Longma. But it seems to me that it is also consuming some kind of seal inside of you. I can't tell what that seal is. Did Master Longma say anything? He didn't say much, just that I needed to pay attention to who I think I am and figure out what I want. Damien shrugged after a moment of thought. So, talking to me like I'm a kid. Well, he is hundreds of years old, Roberta chuckled, almost laughing out loud. He's older than all of us combined. Everyone's a kid to him. Okay, can you tell me about, I don't know, about everyone? Damien got closer to Roberta and softened his voice. And why you're all trying to slay this dragon? Well, we all have our reasons, some relatively general and grand, some pretty personal. Roberta smiled, shaking her head, and then she kicked a small rock downhill from where she was. And yeah, if you're traveling with us, it's best that you figure out where you fit in. As you may be able to tell, I am a sniper, gunner, and demolition expert. Contrary to what you might think, I don't actually get into closer quarter combat that much. Master Longma's the cultivator, a kind of spellcaster and fighter, to put it simply. He rides a sword as if he wants to fly, and you can try to ask him how he keeps his balls intact. Candle-kun is the healer and medic, and he's always sweaty and grumpy, so don't bother him unless you have to. Boulder's, well, he's our cook and defense expert. He could almost make anything with his metallic body. Just don't ask him to make an offensive weapon. He gets upset. You can ask him to make you a shield or some armor, though. Also, I have Fey and Elf blood in me, similar to your situation. What about Luo? Damien nodded and then took a look at the old man, who was treading along the way with the help of Boulder. He looks normal, plain, powerless, Roberta chuckled. Yeah, he does look so. But if anyone could slay a dragon, it'd be him. Why? Damien asked. But before he could answer, a pungent, smoky smell caught his attention. Pillars of smoke coming from behind the hill that stood before them. The sky grew visibly gray and dim. Master Longma rushed to the top of the hill and then turned back and delivered a message to every single member of the team directly to their ears. It's the village by the river. It's safe, but the village was destroyed. One could barely tell that this was the ruins of a village from a distance. Almost completely darkened and carbonized shacks sat on the far side of the riverbanks with red-hot spots of dark flame burning down what was left of them. A sneeze could bring them down to a pile of wood. The river was barely flowing as the water inside was turned into thick and ashy goo, with occasional fiery sparks popping out from different bright spots. If the substance flowing through the river was not so green and dark, Damien could have mistaken it for lava. There was no sign of life anywhere, and the only indication of there ever being people living in this village were the human-shaped burn marks on the riverbanks, surrounded by pieces of shiny, reflective rough glass. Along one of the river banks, and on the surface of a slowly flowing goo resided and roamed strange creatures whose bodies were made up of dark green slime, rock, tree branches, and even broken body parts of beasts and humans. There was a strange sense of familiarity about these creatures, although it was the first time Damien had ever seen them. Are these the same creatures that crashed into your room? Roberta shook her head. Yes, but lowlier. Wasteborns. Master Longmoss stood up after examining one of the barely standing burnt shacks. The flames marks are fresh. We're heading in the right direction. Creatures born from the waste of the dragon, Roberta explained after seeing the strange look on Damien's face. As you could imagine, the power and omens of the dragon are so foul and so ill that its mere waste and shedding could produce pathetic, witless creatures such as these. The ones that almost killed you were almost the same way, but they were once living beings instead of just random garbage. Should should we be worried? Damien conjured a blood dagger and was simultaneously nervous and eager to test its sharpness on a pile of goo, rocks, and burnt wood worming around toward him. Don't waste your energy on them. As long as you're careful, they aren't much of a threat. Roberta stopped him. They don't have very long anyway. Damien was still unsure, and just when he was about to ask again, one of the creatures in front of him let out a short, gurgling squeak and then collapsed, flattening on the ground. The goo that held its body together lost its stickiness and grip, scattering the rocks, debris, and burnt flesh inside around, slightly melted, corrupted, eroded, and consumed. A humming noise came from the ground. Before Damien could ask what was going on, the ground beneath them began shaking. Something burrowing underground was heading their way at a rapid speed and with great momentum. Boom. Two giant claws burst out from under the riverbed, splashing the burning, oily liquid everywhere. Along with the claws came protruding tentacles, one long forked and sawed spike between its giant black and light bulb-shaped eyes. Watch out! A stream of burning liquid jetted through the formation of the team, aiming right for Candlecune and the old man Luo. Ah! Boulder let out a childlike scream and leapt in front of Candlecune and Luo, the surface of his body expanding in mid-air and grew into a giant round shield. The stream of liquid turned into hot and highly acidic rain and mist when it crashed against the smooth, reinforced metal surface. Even from a distance, Damien could sense his skin burning. He had to immediately look away to avoid the acidic droplets and vapor from hurting his eyes and nostrils. Protect Luo! Master Longmaw shouted as he jumped into the high ground with his sword spinning in the air like a high-speed drill bit ready to impale the lobster monster's red-hot, steaming outer shell. But before he could unleash the strike, another lobster creature burst out from the riverbed and swung its front claws at him. Back off! Roberta took out two pistols, one long and one short, but with a larger barrel, and started blasting the lobsters that emerged before Luo. Damien, help me here. Damien zigzagged through the distance between him and the lobsters, with long, slightly curved swords made of blood-red crystals forming in both of his hands. He was confident that he could land one solid blow that he would be able to slice this creature open. It was just a giant lobster after all. Hey, nice job, Grumble. Or so he thought. The translucent red swords that used to be able to slice through solid rocks and hardened tree trunks shattered upon impact, leaving barely a scratch on the lobster's shell. The next moment, Damien was propelled through the air from the side of the lobster, his internal organs shaken and almost crushed into a pulp, and his ribs, his bones, and limbs almost all jumped out of their sockets from the impact. It was the result of but one simple swing of the giant lobster's claw. Boom. A grenade launched by Roberta exploded right by the left eye of the giant lobster that just bashed Damien away. The shockwave, the heat, and the shrapnel together instantly tore this eye to smithereens. The giant lobster arched its body and backed off, flailing both of its claws and its tentacles in a frenzy to block off any potential attempts of follow-up attacks. A buzzing sound came from the position of Master Longmaw. His sword swept through the air, leaving a trail of light blue energy and shadow behind. After a crunch and then a crack, the first giant monster that tried to ambush the team had its entire head and one of its claws cleanly separated from the rest of its body. Dark green goo gushed out of the wounds, and gray tissues spilled onto the ground and into a burning river. Foul stench of toxic, rotten flesh arose and filled the air. Damien stood up, despite his aching legs, knees, and feet. The ground shook once more and brought him back down into the burning, oily river. Extreme heat on his skin and the smell of burnt hair sent a jolt through his entire body, and a sudden urge of energy helped him pull upward and straight. There are more bug fights happening in this than Starship Trooper. That's impressive. We're we're only 30 pages in. The giant lobster that had just bashed Damien away let out a sharp screech, backing off some more in an attempt to avoid the constant explosion on its body. But still, the barrage continued targeting its weak points and sockets on its outer shell. Roberta was holding weapons with both of her hands and smoothly switching from whenever a firearm ran out of ammunition to keep up the pressure. More and more cracks and puncture holes appeared on the lobster's body. It seemed that its defenses would be down any minute. "Roberta, be careful!" Boulder let out a worried but still childlike shout, and a metal ring flew from his left arm. The giant lobster continued backing off while covering its head area with both of its front claws. The shell on its front claw were much thicker than the other places, and even with repeated blasting, Roberta was not able to produce any more cracks on its body. Just when she was about to move to a different angle, another stream of hot liquid jetted through between the front claws, aiming right at her. The metal ring thrown by Boulder turned into a cone with its opening end facing Roberta and the sharp tip facing the stream. The stream was dissipated by the metal cone and splashed just around her. Not even a single drop had touched her body. The pain was coming from his burning skin, and hair would make just any normal human lose consciousness. But for Damien, at the sight of Roberta under attack, it somehow awakened a hidden fierceness buried deep within. He started seeing red. Dark, thick, spiky fur crawled up his back and his arms. His entire body grew larger and framed. Sharp red crystal blades extended from his fingertips like claws, and with a string of after images behind him, he shot at the giant lobster. The blind fervor of rage filled his mind. The previously imposing lobster was now nothing but a pile of flesh and bones to be torn apart. The giant lobster swung its right claw at Roberta while she tried to get out from behind the metal cone, and at the same time its left claw swept to the side, aiming at Damien in an attempt to swipe him away, just like the last time. It's turning Super Saiyan, it is. Or he is. But he's wolfing out. But this time, both attacks missed. Damien, now armed with heightened speed and senses, jumped onto the rock right before the claw could hit him. Roberta, on the other hand, pulled out one of her long-barreled rifles and fired a high-velocity round at the lobster. The armor-piercing bullet went through its shell, sinking deeper into its head. The sharp pain caused it to flail. Its legs arched, its body screaming and flopping around. The next moment, the round exploded from the inside of the lobster's body, tearing a gaping, steaming hole on the back of its neck and separating its head from its body, carving another hole at the back of its tail. Foul flesh and liquid rained, yet Damien, driven by his surge of bloodlust, did not recognize victory even when it was right in front of him. His mouth opened wide. His teeth were much longer and sharper than they had ever been. With a loud crunch, he bit into the cracked shell of the giant lobster head. Broken pieces of the red-hot shell and slivers of flesh reeking of the rotten stench, but with a bizarre sweetness, filled his mouth. But before he could swallow, a heavy palm strike landed on the back of his head. A stream of chilling energy rushed into his mind and body, instantly knocking the bloodlust out of his head, and at the same time sending him into the state of deep sleep. Oh no! They're gonna have so much lobster. I wonder if they can, or if it's gonna be like garbage so they can't actually eat it. Poof. A magically suppressed gunfire was no louder than a sudden gust of wind blowing through the grass. Far away from Roberta and Damien roamed a wild boar. Its body was covered in moss, short, blunt spikes with semi-transparent tip, and cracked pieces of dried dirt from its rolling in the mud. The bullet shot through the air, leaving a trail of hot air and shockwaves behind. No more than half a second passed, it struck the boar right on the left side of its forehead. Dust and smoke rose from the boar's face. The top of its skull was ripped away from the rest of its head. Damien rushed toward the boar with Roberta behind him. The boar slowly collapsed on the ground, its legs still twitching and squirming. This was a place full of ferocious, sometimes mutated beasts, and the smell of blood and fresh meat would be an open invitation to all of the predators in the general area. Careful! Roberta tried to catch up to Damien. Her half-fae and half-elf bloodlines blessed her with her eagle eyes, and the ability to land shots on tiny moving targets across great distances, affinity to the flow of magic, and the last but not least, enhanced physical abilities that let her traverse the lands faster than normal humans. But as it turned out, her stamina and speed fell short when compared to that of Damien's, thanks to his half-vampire, half-lichen blood. Just watch my back. Damien let out a laugh as he pressed the remaining distance on all fours. The silver chain with a small beige gem pendant on Damien's neck dangled and swung as he ran without a care. He had gotten more and more used to traversing greater distances this way, and he started to enjoy the connection to his lichen half. The chain and pendant were the works of Boulder and Master Longma, a temporary seal to suppress and tune the side effects of the sudden awakening of his power. In other words, it was to make sure that his power was released slowly and smoothly so that his body could adjust and adapt to it. A fissure appeared in front of Damien. He simply pushed the ground and launched himself into the air. His body glided across the entire gap without a sweat. The switching and bleeding body of the boar was just at the top of the hill ahead. The smell of blood grew thick and vibrant as he closed in on the boar. His heart was racing, and he had to consciously breathe faster and deeper so as to catch up and keep himself calm. He never had the urge to consume raw flesh until now. The closer he got to the fresh and still moving prey, the urge to sink his teeth into its hide, the flesh and bones became stronger and more solidified. Without even noticing, Damien licked his fangs a couple of times. Each time he could sense them growing slowly longer, smoother and sharper. He never thought that he would find the salty smell of blood fragrant and intoxicating. His fingernails grew longer and sharper as well, and he reached for the boar, the thirst and hunger gradually filling his mind. Damien! The call of Roberta woke him up and pulled him out of his trance like a splash of cold water. What? Did you just have another episode? Did you? Egao better make it so they can eat it. We'll have to ask him. Because it looks like we transported to time forward. Also, mwah. What? No! Damien frowned and scratched his head. His fingernails were still sharp, and this move hurt him slightly. It was not something that he wanted Roberta to see, but upon meeting her gaze, he relented. Yeah, well, maybe a little, okay? It's not a big deal. It's the fresh blood again, isn't it? Roberta nodded, concerned. Here, let me carry it instead. No, let me do it. Damien rushed over to the boar and flung it over his shoulder. It's fine. Let's get back and cook. Roberta wanted to say something, but before she could, Damien already launched himself at the direction from which they had come. They had started to they had to start running after him again. She had to start running after him again to keep up and not fall behind. But before either of them could get very far, the ground started shaking and the fissure they jumped over on their way had widened. As the ground on both sides moved away from each other, the edges of dirt and rock collapsed and the walls crumbled layer by layer. What the? Damien looked around and then turned his head back at Roberta, who was also having a hard time standing straight. Watch out! Roberta used one of her rifles to clutch as a clutch to help her stand in place. Stay back! Boom. Another fissure cracked open, separating Roberta and Damien. In the blink of an eye, from the depths of the crack rose a horizontal, long, seemingly wooden stick with layers of paper or fine white silk wrapped on it, like the end of a scroll. Come over! Jump! Roberta sounded, extremely worried and frightened that a wooden stick rose higher, unrolling a white screen down from below. It's a huaba! What-a-ba? Damien could not make out all of the words that she had said, but he did know he needed to get to Roberta's side. It was one thing that Master Longma always stressed. They should always stick together. But when he tried to jump over the gap around it, a soft light rose from the white screen, captured his attention. For a brief moment, his body became lighter, his mind somehow no longer bothered by the thirst and hunger, and was now full of joy. Warm and fuzzy energy surrounded him. His feet were lifted up into the air without him knowing. Well rested, spirited, and comfortable, Damien woke up in his bed. The sunlight flowing through the window no longer annoyed him, but was rather pleasant. He never knew the full warmth of the sun, and now he could not quite get enough of it. When he opened the curtains, the bright neighborhood, the blue sky, and the clean city awaited him. Yo, loser, get up! Roberta, his roommate and girlfriend, knocked on his door. We're gonna be late. Late? For what? Damien immediately threw on a shirt that was lying on the floor before opening the door. The fabric of the shirt was smooth and light, keeping his body at just the right temperature. He thought that the shirt would smell from being on the floor and unwashed all the time. It turned out that he was wrong. You know, the thing. Roberta, in a well-fitted shirt, ripped jeans, and a pair of battle boots, shrugged. What thing? Are you crazy? The thing! You've been so excited and wouldn't shut up about it for weeks. Roberta tilted her head, her lips gently pursing, surprised at Damien's lack of reaction. What's gotten into you? Some kind of memory, flavored with excitement and anticipation, began to bubble in Damien's mind. The thing. It was something that he had been expecting for weeks, something that would be the greatest thing ever. But he just couldn't shake the feeling of suspicion of what it was. It was something that he had been actually anticipating. How could he not recall what it was right now? His palms itched, but he paid them no mind. Damien, what happened? Roberta's voice seemed slightly distorted and rang with some echoes in his ears. Are you all right? No. Damien backed away a few more steps and almost had his back against the wall. His palms began tingling, even burning. This isn't right. What isn't right? Roberta came closer, subtly biting her lip. Damien narrowed his eyes and tried to look at Roberta. Her face was just as pretty as he remembered, if not more. Her hair was still flaming red, flowing and bright. The kind of rough-around-the-edges aura and the faint smell of gunpowder from all of the gunslinging that seemed to be gone. Everything about her seemed soft and clean and glowing. No, all of this. Damien rushed to the side, drawing more distance between him and Roberta. Geez, you're uppity this morning. Roberta raised her hand, then sat on Damien's bed. You want to talk about it? Or I can help you in other ways. Before Damien could answer, Something shot from under Damien's bed, piercing through the mattress. Roberta's head was as well as the ceiling. Pieces of fabric averted on her face, chest, and neck, revealing some kind of hypnotizing, iridescent mist underneath. But her gesture and composure did not change at all. "What are you waiting for? Not having trouble, are you?" Utter horror shot through Damien's whole body. He backed off and tried to conjure his blood dagger in an attempt to be prepared to defend himself should he need to. But hard as he tried, nothing appeared in his hands. He did not seem to be able to wield or even feel magic right now. "What's wrong? What's with your hand?" Roberta stood up on the edge of Damien's bed. Her face and neck became normal, leaving a hole with iridescent mist behind where her face and neck used to be. The same spot in space above the edge of the bed. No, no, this is not real. Damien immediately stepped back, still trying to clench his fingers. Vaguely, he remembered when he concentrated on his hand that he should be able to do something, but somehow he was having a hard time remembering what it was. "Why are you acting like this, Damien? Are you having the symptoms again?" Roberta came closer. Her face was full of concern, still soft, still pretty, but stranger. "What? What symptoms? Is this an episode? Are you all right? Are you confused again?" Just when Damien was in doubt about his own state of mind and being, something else tore through the reality that he was in. A few more bullet holes in the background with the mist leaking out, which he almost forgot. The blade of a shining, enchanted sword pierced through his bed from underneath right after. With a quick swing, it completely sliced open his bed, his entire room, and Roberta in half, creating a gash of darkness and space. The vision of his room, his furniture, and Roberta became blurry and ashy, since everything seemed to be engulfed in an invisible fire. But yet, at the same time, everything still appeared normal. His room and his bed were still steady, and he had the same shadows and lighting. Roberta was still asking Damien how he was, worried, gentle, and caring. As the gash widened, Damien's limbs were frozen, and his entire body was being sucked into the darkness. While he was flying uncontrollably into the void, his memory gradually returned. The light returned to Damien after a brief blackout. It took a whole other while before he could feel his limbs, his toes and his fingers. Forcing his numb neck muscles to turn back, he finally got a good look at the place that he left. A large scroll painting radiating a cold, hypnotizing, and almost seductive aura, completely cut in half and covered in at least a few dozen bullet holes. The scroll painting was twitching and screaming in the air, like a creature near the end of its life. Master Longma was floating in the sky right beside the flailing and screaming scroll painting. Blue flames shot from his hands after making a hand seal. The Huaba was engulfed without a chance to escape. Smoke arose. Gray faces of ash and shadow escaped the painting, and it was something consumed by fire. Screeching, crying, laughing, moaning. Some of the humans, some of animals, some just utterly undescribable or supernatural. What the hell is that? Damien tried a few times before he could stand up straight. His entire body was sore, and his figure had slimmed down. What happened? Hey, Kat, what's up? Welcome. How are you doing? How was your week? Please. It's been a while. I mean, I say this, and then I'm like, I need to go see the last time we actually talked to each other, because it feels like it's been a while. But maybe. This week was dumb, but it's good now. Good! It does feel long, right? You gotta tell me what your weekend plans are. Because tomorrow's the 17th. We doing. You're coming into a lot of action. The hell happened? The hell is that? Damien tried a few times before he could stand straight. His entire body was sore and his figure had slimmed down. What happened? Huaba. Roberta was on the ground in front of him. She caught Damien by the arm when he tried to take a step, while not able to maintain his balance. A painting spirit vampire or a painting spirit zombie. If you're not aware or on alert, it'll pull you into its never-ending illusion and suck your vitality dry along with your spirit. And blood and screaming? Yeah. I'm glad that you're good. Especially since this week was apparently friggin' stupid. So, next week better be better. I want to hear about it being better and less stupid. I actually also would like to see it being less stupid. When are you streaming, BT Dubs? When do we get a debut? There we go. Your VTuber debut. Not to spoil anybody. No, you're cute. Be gone. Master Longma unleashed another spell. A bolt of lightning and shockwave shot from his palms, ripping it apart and incinerating the Huaba into ashes. When what remained of the creature scattered and settled, Master Longma landed on the ground and took a closer look at Damien, checking his pulse, his breath, his blood flow, and his pupils. I thought that I told you to stay close to each other, Master Longma asked in a stern tone. Roberta was training to resist the pulling of Huabas, and she could stop you from being affected or pull you out in time. Why be on your own? Damien stammered. I wasn't thinking. This is not some casual fun exploration or adventure through the wild. You know damn well we're on a quest. Master Longma pointed at the position where the Huaba once was. We've been able to avoid conflict and danger not because it's safe out there, but because we've been more than careful and cautious. Our little slip-up, like one little slip-up like that, and you could lose your life. You could have exposed us and brought the dragon straight upon us. Hey, it's Raynor. Welcome. What's up? So hopefully you can wrap up the chores in time. We'll see. I have a plan of like we're gonna get to 50% tonight and then stop and then do the other 50% next time. So I don't know what time that'll be. We're at 36% now, so we'll see. Chores are what unfortunately adults have to do. Probably not until moving is done. I mean, you gotta set up your streaming room, your sweet place. But that means soon. Maybe? Does that mean maybe February? I'm sorry. Damien tried to say something again, but it seemed all he could do was apologize. It won't happen again. See that it doesn't. Master Longma narrowed his eyes. Roberta, you are in charge of him now. Make sure that he doesn't leave your side. Keep that dog on a leash. Wait, what, Master? I don't need a babysitter. You've got it, Master. I'll keep an eye on him. Roberta immediately pulled behind Damien behind her. Now come, Master Longma waved at Damien and Roberta. We've fully set up camp for now. We'll clean this up, eat, rest for half a day, and then we'll be on our way. Thank you, but I'm not sure. Damien hesitated and kept replaying all of what just happened for a while before he could muster up the energy and courage to speak to Roberta again, and they're on their way back. You know, he's doing really well considering they've landed in like an isekai also. Mwah. Mwah. You don't want to have to neuter him. I don't. No, none of us is sure. Roberta smiled and held Damien by his left arm. I know that you don't like it. I wouldn't. But it's not just a precaution, and I promise I won't do anything if you promise me that you'll be more careful. I will. It's just. Damien wanted to say how he was hurt and torn, and that he did not want to be a burden to anyone. Yet the more he tried, the lower his guts sank, and the harder it was for him to bring anything up. Hey, you'll get plenty of chances to kick ass. Roberta shook her head with a smile. The real battle's still ahead of us. Eyes on the prize, okay? Yeah, I guess. Damien sighed. Still, he dared not speak truly of what had brought him this shame. He could barely touch the thought. The fact that he did not think he was ready. He did not think that he would be even after a few more days or even weeks or months of training. Hey, Cat, you got it. So are you going to the house tomorrow, Cat? And here's the interesting thing about the self-doubt and hesitation. Roberta nudged Damien with her elbow and chuckled. They're self-fulfilling prophecies. The more you think that you'll fuck up, the more that you will fuck up. So have some faith in yourself. Or just be unhinged for a little bit at least. After all, who else here is going to laugh at you? I'm not going to do it. And why do you care about others? We're all counting on you as well. Laughing at you will not help at all. Well. You were wondering why I was getting aggressive on screen? Who was getting aggressive on screen? You got 3 things about buying the rest of the paint supply. Paint is expensive for sure. You're a little dragon. He's so cute though. I love Grumble sitting on Casey's shoulder over there. You guys are all just loving on Casey over there. Damien couldn't help but chuckle along with Roberta. Maybe. Maybe. Not that everything is on you, of course, Roberta shrugged, but just know that we'd rather you be trustworthy than make you feel bad. Master Longmaw's always been this harsh, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't believe in your potential. Now come on, I think it's Luo's turn to cook this time. Speaking of Luo, Roberta hastened her footsteps so that Damien could catch up a bit. What is his specialty, really? I mean, I haven't seen him do anything special. Don't let his humble look fool you. Roberta sped up some more with a smile. He's the only one that could slay the dragon. What? Really? At the center of the camp, there was a bright orange fire with 3 metal pots hanging on a simple rack made by tree branches. Above the fire was an almost invisible energy vortex that sucked in all of the smoke, steam, and excess smell from the fire and food. Everyone sat around it, while Luo, though his eyes still blurry and his hands trembling, slowly adjusted to the fire and the position of the pots. 1 pot of meat stew, 1 pot of boiled vegetables, and 1 pot of mushroom soup. It was definitely a simple yet hearty meal awaiting them. All 3 dishes looked only slightly seasoned with not much flair. Normally, Damien would have had trouble enjoying them, but right now, hunger seemed to be serving as the best seasoning and condiment, and he couldn't wait for his turn to be served. How's the soup? After Boulder handed out custom-made metal trays that looked like crude bento boxes with 3 sections and metal spoons, Luo turned to Damien's general direction and asked, It's really good. Damien was surprised, but then answered honestly. You might be wondering where the meat is. Luo chuckled. His foggy eyes did not conceal his warm smile. It's actually fully boiled into the soup. If you see some small pieces and strips here and there, that'd be it. And since we won't really have a lot, making the soup seems to be the fairest way. $60 a gallon. Ugh. Oh, is it because you're getting special paint, or is that just like normal paint? You like when the obby is near my face and then start shaking? What does that mean? Bruh, are you gonna do what about the paint that you can use as a chalkboard? Would you do that one for a room and then just have walls you can draw on? You liked working on my face? Oh my gosh. So you have small bottles of that stuff for a little board though? Elder, Master Longmaw interjected, I think it's a good idea if you could tell us a story again. I mean, I believe we'd all like that. Story! Story! Boulder clapped his hands like an enthusiastic child. I mean, I'd better listen to your story than some whining and moaning. Candlekin shrugged. His eyes drifted towards Damien for a brief moment and then turned back to Luo. All right, all right. Luo chuckled and took out a small book wrapped in dirty cloth from his robe's inner pouch. I guess that it would be a good idea to tell our new friend why, for what reason, we are all on this very path. Damien took a sip of soup and was ready to gulp down. However, everyone else seemed to be getting eager, enthusiastic, while slightly solemn. He put down his bowl. Well, I may need to try a bit this time. Luo chuckled and shook his head. It's been a while since I last told it, so why don't we start at the beginning? My name is Luo, and I am, or was, but a humble old man living in my village. I was a tutor, instructor when I was younger, and then, when my students became men and women and no longer needed tutoring, I turned to collecting firewood, wild fruit, and vegetables for the living. I was never a good hunter or fisher, so I laid traps, and sometimes I could get something. Lucky for me, I still had my son and grandson. My grandson was the sweetest, kindest, and smartest young boy. He liked drawing and telling everyone his stories. Such a wonderful imagination he had. You see, our village was losing a lot of youth. Many left for better lives, and my grandson and that young girl who ran around with him, sharing their stories and venturing through the creeks and hills, were the light and joy of the entire village. They sang, they danced, they played warrior and mage, they drew, they told stories, lots and lots of them, and everyone loved them. You better send me a picture. I'm expecting it. Okay, there we go. I have to make sure that you can actually see the heart. Then, one day, while I was in the mountains, struggling through the sudden rain and cruel wind to bring back my grandson's favorite mushrooms, he asked for those, and my son was going to make soup with it. I saw the beast, that black dragon with 5 eyes, descended from the sky. Oh, and its fire it breathed, the lightning it brought, the flood it conjured. Luo's voice trembled. The tears rolled down his murky eyes, scattering on the rough wrinkles of his face. It took a while before Luo continued, and after a long, deep breath, I finally got to where my village was. I could smell the smoke before I could even see it. There was no sound of any of my villagers. When I got there, the entire village was leveled. All of the houses were either burned down or torn apart by flood. My fellow villagers, all lifeless and scattered, tormented and terrorized. I found my house wading through the boiling water, and it was built on higher ground. It survived the flood that wretched beast brought with it on its path. But I lived in a house of bamboo, hay, and wood, so there I saw it, a burning and smoking ruin. Damien swallowed and let out a short breath. He kind of knew the end of the story already, but it still held his heart and stomach, waiting for the tragedy to finish its course. So I rushed in. Lua wiped the corners of his eyes and then the wrinkles on his face. My son, a good fisherman and father he was on the ground. My grandson was under him. My son shielded his own from the fire, but the smoke and the heat, whatever can a small ant-like man do? Everything was gone but this. Luo raised the book in his arms up a little and held it tight. The drawing book of my grandson. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what I could do. I caught the shadow of its tail, so I started tracking it, following it, and it became my all, the dragon. I will slay it. It will die by my hands. His voice hardened as he laid his fingers on the old and rusty hatchet in his pocket. I vowed this on that day. Damien stared at the hatchet for a short moment. He could not sense anything special about it. It was not enchanted, like the guns that Roberta had, nor was it a special magical creation like the sword of Master Long Ma. It was beyond simple, barely capable of helping with collecting firewood. But how? How did you all meet? Damien cleared his throat and tried to lighten the mood. Oh, I was just fortunate. Luo smiled. You can imagine how close to impossible it is for an old man like me to traverse the mountains and forests alone. That, and thanks to the fire and smoke of my village, my eyes were beginning to fade at the first night. I thought then that it could be the end of me. I made it, thanks to Boulder, and just the next day I met Candlecun, and then Roberta, and then the Master. If it weren't for them, I would not have made it here, this far. Damien nodded. Then he tried sneakily to look at Roberta, who was looking at him as well. Their eyes met, and Roberta just smiled and raised her bowl to sip the soup. There were tear marks in the corners of her eyes. After the story, Damien ate his food mostly in silence. Candlecun and Boulder had a whispering conversation on the side while chewing and swallowing rocks and dirt. Master Longma had also ate alone, keeping an eye out on the surroundings. Roberta came over to sit by Damien and ate in silence with him, after having some quick words with Master and Luo. Kid, we'll rest earlier today. After the meal, Master Longma came to Damien. You and Roberta take first shift. We'll make sure to take care of the rest of the night. Oh, thank you, Master, Roberta nodded. Really appreciate it. This area, it's safe, right? Are we gonna camp here tonight? Damien asked, still not comfortable enough to look at the Master right in the eyes. We will find a place. We just had our food here. Careful as we are, the food in the waste could still leak, and that would attract unwanted vermin. Master Longma shrugged, and vermin are, you can imagine, a major risk of exposing us. Vermin. Like the lobsters and that huaba? Damien sighed. Not just those. It could also be beasts of any kind. Roberta smiled. Bears and wolves, for example. If they come after us, we'd be forced to fight them, and if we fight them, it could bring other unwanted entities our way. Not to mention, wherever you use any kind of power, like your blood magic or my enchanted guns or master's spells, it sends out ripples of energy, and that could be sensed by other dangerous creatures, minions of the dragon included. Master Longma sat down by Damien. And this is why we would like to avoid fighting as much as possible. I I get it now, Master. Good. Master Longma took a long breath and patted Damien on the shoulder lightly. Still, don't forget to practice. You've been making good progress. Keep it up. Roberta, teach him the steps of the Northern Star. Yes, Master. Roberta nodded at Master Longma as he left, and then returned to Damien, unable to control her smile. I don't know how well you think you know the Master, but that's an apology, and I'm actually proud of you, kid. Yeah. I I think I kind of picked that up on that. I picked up on that. Damien shook his head and then wiped his eyes. So, what's this Steps of Northern Stars? The answer was rather simple. They were said to be specific ways that one could take steps on the ground to conjure energy from the universe, simple but useful rituals. The combination of the length of steps taken and the direction of the steps became a nonverbal spell. The steps could take the 7 different forms. Under Roberta's guidance, Damien began practicing the first and the second forms while the others were cleaning up the camp. The first form was one clear in his mind, drive away illusions, while the second one was to concentrate energy to smite one's enemies. After the 5th unsuccessful try on the second form, Damien had to take a break. Hey, Roberta, can I confess something? Sure, but do you mind if we do it while we're on the road? Roberta took a look at the rest of the team. We're all packed and ready to go. Oh, sorry. Damien stood up and followed Roberta and the others to the way into the forest before them. So, what kind of confession did you have in mind? While Boulder was at the front, cutting and slicing a path toward the small sickle, Candlecoon was helping Luo traverse the uneven lands, and Master Longmaw was walking alongside Boulder to serve as a vanguard. Roberta asked Damien at the same time as keeping an eye out on what could trail behind them. Yes. It was slightly uneasy at that moment that had already passed. Everything Damien wanted to say had just felt somewhat stale and awkward. With the team going further into the forest, they had to be more watchful of their backs and the surroundings, and bringing up his thoughts only became more uncomfortable. I mean, my parents. Your parents were hard on you and tried to have you read books and remember them word by word, huh? Roberta smiled as she shifted her eyes into Damien's for a brief moment. What? Oh, God, I wish, Damien stammered. I don't remember much about them. They left when I was really young, and I never saw them again. And I mean, I didn't have to struggle for food or a roof. They left me some money so I was not homeless or hungry, but I had to figure things out on my own, and I have to, well, tell me then. I don't know. Roberta started laughing. I only spent a little bit of time in your world, and most of it was wasted fighting those damn toxic dogs. I don't really know what your world is like. Okay. It's nothing special, really. I told you. I'm half vampire and half lichen, so I'm not really a member of either family. My parents left a note and told me to not seek them out and lay low, and they also left some books and notes for me to understand where they came from and how to discover my powers, but I barely get to experiment more. So your friends in your world don't know who you are or what your powers are? No, they're interesting. Damien scratched his jaw with relief and excitement of the sharing dwindled as the sharing dwindled. I don't know if they are my friends. We just know each other from work. Oh, and I am assuming this work doesn't give you a lot of chance to actually know people? Roberta nodded. Yeah, no, not really, Damien sighed. I work as a busboy and a janitor. I don't know if you have them here. Basically, I clean things up. If you have people leaving garbage or a mess behind, I clean them. Since I'm the only one, I have to work during the evenings and early mornings, so you don't really get to meet others, or at least spend a lot of time with them, Roberta sighed. Pity. For for the amount of time that I've spent over there, it seemed your world is quite colorful and one of a kind even. Hey, when all of this is over, maybe we can figure out a way to create a reusable portal so that you can come and visit? Damien chuckled. Well, that seems like a challenge, and Roberta thought on it for a while, then finally met Damien's gaze full of expectation. I don't know if Master Longmaw has taught you this yet, but in order to do that, you'll need to cultivate your magic and master the related spells. I'm gonna go do it. It's gonna be a lot of work, much more than what you need to get home. That really sounds like a challenge. Damien nodded, only more encouraged and enthused by this answer. But I think that I'm starting to get the hang of it. Good. That's good. Because we need it. Roberta looked up and forward. As you can tell, we desperately need the fighting power. For a while, it's just been Master and me. Now we have you. we have much better chance of making it. Oh, wow. Damien scratched his head. His unconsciously inflating ego was immediately put in its place. I'll definitely try my best not to disappoint or get anyone hurt. Ah, Roberta, can I ask you a question, if it's appropriate? A few minutes into the night watch shift, Damien asked Roberta while sitting on two tree branches that were pointing at each other. The rest of the team was sleeping on the ground in a spot enclosed by trees under the protection of camouflage, some obscuring spells, protection arrays, and traps. Yeah? Is it about Luo? Roberta giggled. Right, yeah. How can you tell? Damien averted his eyes. Because after all this time, you still seem uneasy whenever we mention Luo, and you keep eyeing him. Roberta shook her head, her legs dangling and gently kicking in the air. You still have doubts, don't you? So many doubts. Damien sighed. I got to admit, I've been watching him these days, but I still can't figure out what's so special about him, how he can slay a dragon. I know that I shouldn't have these thoughts, but he doesn't even look like he could walk past the forest if it weren't for you. Like I told you, he's the only one among us that most likely would be able to slay the dragon. Roberta sighed. And do you have dragons in your world? Well, we only have legends about them, and different legends tell different stories. Damien thought for a moment. But what does that have to do with, are they powerful? As powerful as Luo described? Kinda. Some of them are, but which is why I'm worried. And so you understand, the powerful beings such as them cannot be slayed by any ordinary means. Not even spells, nor swords or guns. Roberta looked up at the night sky. One needs a special thing, be it a special weapon, a magical artifact, or some kind of special blessing bestowed. And that thing, Luo has it. Okay. Damien wanted to ask what it was, but hesitated, for a thought stirred and left a touch of poison in his mind that he may not want to know the answer to. May I ask this of you? Roberta looked Damien in the eyes and spoke with a soft voice. Believe in us. There's not much that I can assure you with, but I hope that you can. I suppose. Damien conjured a small crystal in his right palm and started playing with it to help him suppress the troubled thoughts in his mind. With constant practice and meditation, tricks like this were becoming easier and easier. Damien? Roberta called. Her tone sounded nervous. Huh? Don't move, Roberta whispered, her eyes fixed on something behind him. On my mark, drop down and alert everyone. You got it? And don't look back. Damien nodded. He did not feel anything yet, but his fingers were already ready to move, his spell ready to go. Roberta took a deep breath before swinging her right leg forward. A small grenade shot through the air over Damien's head. Before the grenade would explode, she dived from the tree branch, turning her back to the grenade. A flash of blinding white light exploded from behind Damien. For but a brief moment, not a single nook or cranny around them was still in the shadows. Everybody up! Enemies! Enemies incoming! Damien shouted as he dropped from the tree branch, thick fur growing on his arms, back and even his face. His muscles bulged up, while blood-red energy crystallized on his palms and fingertips. Snakes, abnormally slender, with their bodies wrapped around the very trees that they sprung from, and tiny wings on either sides. Monkeys with 3 tentacles extending from their backs, each of which also had curved and sharp tips on it. They emerged from the darkness in swarms like hornets from the disturbed nest. Roberta flash grenade knocked quite a few monkey-like creatures off of the trees, screaming and kicking. The snakes seemed almost unperturbed by the light. Damien threw his arms into the air before landing on the ground. The red energy concentrated in his hands shot upward and turned into spinning blades. Several winged snakes were sliced into pieces before they could even get close to him or Roberta. Master Longmont enchanted sword, surrounded by a giant aura, made a comforting buzzing sound as it glided through the chill air. The blade swiped and pierced through a number of monkeys with particularly bigger sizes, and then spun in the air while shooting thin, slender energy all at the incoming creatures. Hey David, welcome. How's it going? How was your week? I'll hold them off. You go. Master Longma elevated himself in the air and pointed forward. Find a hiding spot and wait for me. A small blue glowing ball of light shot from the tip of his right index finger and started leading the way. Go, go! Roberta pulled out a shotgun and blasted a monkey-like creature in the chest who was just lunged at Candlekin from the shadows. Protect Luo! I'm also glad that it's the weekend. A winged snake slithered its way down the trunk of a small tree and shot at Damien. Its mouth opened wide, its fangs sharp and glistening green. Only when the fangs sunk into its back of its right shoulder did Damien know that he was snuck upon. He did not have time to properly react and could only rip the snake right off, throwing it into the bushes after kicking another monkey-like creature into the trees. Guys, I don't know. I kind of want another lobster. Damien, protect yourself. Boulder conjured half a metal dome to protect Luo and Candlekin. Just when Damien blocked a small group of 3 monkey-like creatures from charging from the side, Boulder tossed a small blob of cool, silvery liquid at him. It expanded into a thin layer of armor covering his back, yet it did not add much weight. Right after the armor formed, a loud clunk exploded as the monkey-like creature shot the tentacle on its back at Damien, but ended up bouncing off the armor. As a result, one of these tentacles left a giant hole on the trunk of the tree on the side. Go, I'll catch up. The bite on the shoulder sent a tingling sensation slowly through his skin to more of his back muscles. This caused a little panic on his part at first, but gradually the panic morphed into a fit of burning rage. Similar to how it was before, his blood started boiling, and for a moment he wanted to let the rage and urge break free and abandon what reservation he had. His muscles grew thicker, his fangs grew longer, his skin began to paler. His entire frame became more wolf-like and more vampire-like at the same time. With his fury and hunger for the battle and blood, his movement became less structured and disciplined, his fighting style more erratic and cruel, tearing the monkey-like creatures limb from limb and skinning the snake creatures using crimson energy blades emerging from his fingernails. Just before his mind was completely lost, the chilliness from the metal, along with the fading light guiding the team at a distance, pulled him back. After taking a look at Master Longmaw, who was trying his hardest to pull as many creatures to himself as possible and laying down corpses up by piles, he activated his blood magic and tried to catch up with the team. The sounds of gunfire and grenade explosions helped Damien pinpoint the rest of the team where the rest of the team was heading, especially when the guiding ball of light was not clearly visible. Bodies scattered all along the way, as well as empty cartridges and smoking shrapnel. No doubt Roberta's arsenal was made with magic, for no one could carry this much ammunition and other explosives without utilizing at least a few giant bags. A low growl came from the depths of the wood. 2 glowing eyes inched towards Damien's tail, silently following, barely disturbing a leaf of grass. More appeared and followed. Wolves, each with an additional eye on the forehead, abnormally long front claws, and each had an additional joint close to their wrists. They came from behind, They were faster than the monkeys. They drove away the winged snakes on both or on their paths, yet their movements remained quiet, almost blending completely into the night. Smelling dangers in the air, Damien sped up. He saw a few of the wolf-like creatures following him. He wanted to catch up as fast as possible, but he was not certain that he could shake them off before getting back to the team. With that thought, Damien started calculating in his mind. He was getting closer for the guiding light, brighter by every second, and the wolf-like creatures were beginning to growl and hiss, slowing their growling impatience and eagerness to strike. Showing their growling and impatience to strike. After battling with himself over a few grueling seconds, Damien decided to stop, for these creatures following him would no doubt pose a great threat to the whole team. He stood with his back slightly hunched, actively pushing his energy through his body while trying not to let the rage take over. Fur grew and pricked through his clothes. Red energy blades crystallized on his hands. He needed to drive these creatures away, or at least thwart them from following him and the team. They were organized in their pursuit. Therefore, his only chance was to take out the leader of the pack and hopefully dissolve the entire horde. With some looking around, Damien found a bush to hide in with a piece of boulder on the side with which he could block off his back. The wolf-like creature moved in closer in an enclosing formation. The head of the horde approached amongst its minions. It was visibly bigger than the others in size, with a few stripes of glowing fur on its back and two horns extending forward on the back of its ears. The creature at the front of the formation growled. Their paws kept scratching and the ground and were ready to attack the moment that they were given a command. I don't know if you can understand me, but back off. I don't want any trouble. Damien growled his words at the wolves and had his eyes fixed on the biggest one. The other wolves growled louder, but they did not attack just yet. Away from me! Now! Damien pushed harder on his wolf side and grew slightly bigger in size. The hairs on his back bristled and his eyes glowed brighter in the dangerous, dark red light. What are you? A voice resounded in Damien's head. I am a wolf. You're blessed. For sure. Oh my gosh, here, David. Oh, I just grabbed the wrong window. Sorry. Good thing it's the weekend, Bobby. Hopefully everybody gets some good rest. Oh my gosh, get this out of here. Please. I'm also a wolf, Damien responded with his voice, staring at the biggest wolf creature in his eyes. And I'm simply passing by, following my own pack. I don't want any trouble. You stepped into these woods, a place running with every trouble that you can find. The voice sounded both amused and slightly mocking. And why do you call a group of non-wolves your pack? It's complicated. Damien tried to sound confident and natural. We chose this path out of necessity. Will you let us through? Another wolf creature ran back from the direction of the team, and the biggest wolf sighed. The two wolves sniffed at each other's faces and seemingly made some kind of exchange. The biggest wolf turned its head towards Damien. It seems that your pack has made it into a dangerous territory. I'll let you go for now, courtesy for a fellow wolf, but don't impose on our realm next time. Thank you, sir. Damien was surprised, but immediately bowed his head to the wolf. He continued his rush to where the team was headed, following a faint gunshot and the smell of gunpowder. With his regard for discretion thrown out the wind, Damien was able to gain on the team, and before long he saw a metal dome standing in the hole on the ground. A hulking bear-like creature was roaring and pounding on the dome, using its paws with long curved and razor-sharp nails. With each strike, it would leave a giant dent and deep gash on the metal. On the other hand, the dome was slowly regenerating to mend its own wounds. Fuck, Damien frowned. This dome was clearly made by Boulder, and from the slowing speed of recovery, it seemed Boulder was getting exhausted. There was a lot of still bleeding wounds on the bear-like creature's body, but none of them really looked serious enough to stop its rampage. Damien crouched behind a bush, gradually adjusting the shapes and positions of his legs and his arms, while slowly conjuring a slender, sharp, blood-red sword with a sharp tip in between his palms. The bear-like creature roared again. It dug its two front claws into the open gash on the dome and started pulling it apart. A gunshot fired from inside of the dome when the gash was torn wide enough. A bullet penetrated the creature's shoulders. The creature recoiled, whined, and squirmed, but its claws were still on the edges of the tear. Seeing this window of opportunity, Damien shot out from the bushes, his glowing energy sword thrusting forward. To the bear-like creature's complete surprise, his energy blade had sunk into the open wound on its lower back. The leaves on the trees shivered at the bear creature's painful cry. With a brutal twist of its waist and tail, Damien was flung to the side of his back banged on the metal dome. The dome was dented once again. For a brief moment, he felt like he might have broken several ribs. His vision became flashy, then blurry with red. The fury he was trying to suppress reignited. The bear-like creature flailed its body once again. This time, Damien could not hold on to the blade that he had created and was thrown into the air when was thrown through the air into a tree. Without Damien, the sword dissipated into a small glowing particles that had dimmed and floated away through the night wind. The bear creature stood up, growling as blood poured down from the grievous wound on its back. The creature waved its head and let out a deafening roar, and then charged at Damien. His spine hurt, his arms were sore, and he couldn't stop shaking, and he could barely use his legs. James, what's up? Welcome. Loiners. Boom. Fire exploded on the bear-like creature's back, igniting its fire. The creature barked in pain and devastation. Its legs lost their proper pace and brought its body onto the ground. It trembled into a tree with a thick, sturdy trunk just a few steps away from Damien. A loud crack came from the collision. The tree shook and bent. Leaves fell. The creature groaned and then stopped moving. Damien, come here. The one who fired that grenade was without a doubt Roberta, who rushed out of the metal dome toward Damien with a short-barrel, large-caliber handgun. Damien coughed and forced himself up onto the sound of Roberta's call. From a distance, the dome gradually shrunk and turned back to its original shape. Boulder, only slimmer and visibly weaker. Luo was sitting on the ground, seemingly exhausted and injured on his legs. Candlekin was on his side. Both of his hands were hovering over Luo's wounded areas with a gentle glow of his palm. On my way. Damien was surprised by the sore in his gums as he squeezed his might and stepped forward. The bear-like creature mumbled. It was not dead, but only temporarily knocked out. Go! Roberta grabbed Damien by his arm and started pulling him away. Let's go now. This fucking thing just won't die. Damien limped along with Roberta, trying his best to step up his speed as he went. The bear creature roared from behind their back. Damien and Roberta looked back at the same time. The ferocious beast, even with its head slightly bending sideways in a bizarre manner and all of its extremities shaken and seemingly barely functioning, still conjured a glowing ball of energy in its mouth, aiming right at the back of Damien and Roberta. Watch out! Boulder's concerned scream came from the side, and the metal shield opened up between Damien, Roberta, and the creature. You have been summoned. I love you too, Cat. Have a good night. Thank you for stopping in. You better send pictures. I expect it. Okay, you guys, we're at, oh my gosh, we're at the 59% way, which We're not finishing this tonight. So we're going to stop here and then do the other half next week. Why am I not logged into Goodreads over here? That's the true question. Why do I need the Goodreads? Because I need to mark how far in we are. Oh my gosh. Start a puzzle. Oh my gosh. Distance between 5 cars? Bruh. Why is the captcha like this? What? Guys, this captcha is ridiculous. Okay. You can't ask me for distance between cars. Anyway, let's do this. Our name. It's not even math. I can deal with math. It's like, I guess there is math on the side. I didn't even notice there was math on the side, to be honest with you. I was trying to estimate the distance between the stupid cars. Oh. This works. It just, oh no, it keeps having you do it. This is so bad. What the heck, Amazon? I think I'm getting played right now is what's happening. Because it'd get you to the last one, and then it'd be like, oh, too bad, so sad. Now do 4, but then also another captcha. And then it'd be too bad, so sad. Now do 5, plus another captcha. Man. I've never seen a captcha like that. Now I'm just... Okay, anyway, our name is Damien. We are a half vampire, half lichen with a boring life as a busboy. Enter fiery redhead Roberta, who was fighting dog creatures. Get Issa into another, I should say, get isekai'd into her group of misfits. Luo, Master, Longma, Candle-kun, and Boulder. They are on a mission to kill a dragon that destroyed Luo's village and killed his family. Only Luo can slay the dragon. Everyone else is going along for moral support. And also artillery support. We are also having our powers trained by Master Longma. We don't know. It's because they orphaned us at a church. IDKY. We didn't get to eat giant lobster dinner. Sad face. Hashtag sad faces more. There we go. We just fought a bear creature. There have been lots of creature fightings. But this bear has been a real G. And now it's firing its laser beam from its mouth. We all might die. Hashtag help. Okay, I think that's where we are. Might not be good to eat. That's what the weak constitution would say. Do you want to be strong or do you want to be strong? To power up your levels, you also have to power up your stomach levels. And if you can eat this lobster, you can take Carolina Reaper. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, that's all for this week. Next week, we will finish this. And we will be voting on the next one sometime after that, probably. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. I hope you had a good time. Have a great weekend, and don't die.